Hello, Namaste, Vanakkam, Sat Sri Akal. Today I'd like to talk about how startup founders feel very lonely. I want to start with my own story. My first bootstrapped startup was set up in 1995, Solutions Integrated Marketing. 2 to 3 years down the line, around 97-98, we hit a very rough patch. Cash flows became a very big issue and I would literally have our suppliers chasing me for money everywhere. One guy came into my office, got hold of my collar and demanded money. Another one, who was a travel agent, actually landed up at my house on a Sunday and said, "When are you paying me?" Now imagine the situation. You feel surrounded from all sides with no solution in sight. You feel very lonely. You feel very helpless. You don't know who to turn to for advice. And it's very difficult to go out and talk to anyone because you don't know whether they will understand your situation. You also don't want the word to get around that your business is in trouble because that will affect your customers, your employees, and if you have investors, it will affect them also. So you try and keep everything to yourself, and that's why you feel very, very lonely. Fortunately for me, what happened was the Sunday that this travel agent walked into my house, my brother-in-law, Dev Raman, happened to be visiting me, and he said, "What's happening?" So we spoke about it. We discussed some ideas, and I got a great deal of help from him, and eventually things turned out well, and we got a great exit when a French multinational acquired us several years later. So it was a happy ending. But later on, in recent years, when I have been mentoring startups across the country, I see funded startups also facing the same situation. These could be seed funded startups, angel funded startups, Series A startups, and in some cases beyond also. Those founders also run into difficult situations, and in those situations they feel very lost. They feel reluctant to go out and have a frank conversation with people outside, whether they're investors or other people outside. That's when I said, let me put down some ideas so that we can discuss how founders can beat their loneliness. So I've put down 3 ideas in this video and I hope you find them useful. So here's idea number 1. You must have co-founders. When you run a business alone as a sole founder, that can be very lonely. Having co-founders means that you can cry on each other's shoulders, share some of the pain, and which is why today it's commonly accepted that a startup should have more than one founder. So when I work with the startups I mentor across the country, I always insist that there should be at least 2 co-founders who not just bring skills that complement each other, but they can also support each other in difficult times and of course in good times. Few years ago, I in fact created this video called Don't Do Akela, where I featured 2 co-founders of a startup called Loreto, and they talk about their story of how they help each other and why it's important to have co-founders. Today actually most investors would also want you to have co-founders because they don't want to invest in a company that has only one founder, because there are so many risks involved. So the first idea is you must have co-founders. So what's idea number 2? Idea number 2 is don't be a superhero. Share your frustrations and challenges. Today, fortunately, there are many avenues available for sharing your challenges with others and getting help. For instance, there are so many startup events that happen across the country. There is TiECon, which is the annual flagship event that TiE Delhi NCR organizes, where literally hundreds of founders come together and talk to each other. TiE, for example, in Delhi NCR also has forums like Candid Conversations, where young founders can come and have a candid one-on-one conversation with experienced entrepreneurs and share their challenges. Another forum that I'm very fond of is the startup called Satviko. Its young dynamic founder Prasun Sharma has started a WhatsApp group called Friends of Satviko. Now on this WhatsApp channel, hundreds of startup founders are talking to each other, exchanging ideas, asking for help. Now that's a phenomenal way again of staying connected. One unicorn founder I know ensures that he has significant hobbies like marathon running outside of the business so that you can take your mind off the lonely existence of a startup founder, and that keeps you balanced and sane. Therefore, the idea number 2 is don't be a superhero. Share your frustrations and challenges. Idea number 3 is find independent mentors, not just your investors. Why is this important? Let me give a story of one startup founder who met me a few years ago and he said, "Will you be my mentor?" Now I knew that the startup had got funded recently and therefore they had fairly good investors who were their board members. So I told this guy, "Look, you have these guys on your board. I'm sure they can be your mentors." But he gave me an answer which was an eye opener. He said, "I can't be frank with my investors because they have a conflict of interest. If I tell them frankly that my business is facing these challenges or I'm worried about this, they might overreact. They might start putting more pressure on me." And very clearly, that's not what I want. I want someone who will give me advice which is unbiased and give me advice without putting pressure, and that's what I'm looking for. So that told me that very clearly you can't always depend on only your investors for such advice to get you out of your lonely existence. You need independent mentors with whom you can have a frank conversation. Therefore, idea number 3 is find independent mentors and not just your investors. Being lonely is not an issue faced only by startup founders. Even in high-profile sports like cricket or in Bollywood, this is a real issue. When Virat Kohli was going through his rough patch, he has gone on record talking about how he faced mental challenges. In fact, he said all of us have to recognize that we have to stay within our limits in terms of the effort we put in. He was saying that don't be a superhero. He also said, "I would walk into a room full of people who are friends and family, but I would still feel very, very lonely." Similarly, Deepika Padukone from the world of Bollywood says that, "Look, I would walk into a film set where everyone is celebrating something, but I would still feel very, very low." So clearly, loneliness is an issue across the board. So for successful people like startup founders who are chasing success and glory, that is great. But that path has several speed breakers, and loneliness is one of those big speed breakers. Fortunately, today all of us have collective experience to try and anticipate the challenge of loneliness and overcome it. I hope the 3 ideas we've discussed in this video are helpful to you. Wish you the very best in your path to success, in your path to glory, and I hope you overcome the problem of loneliness whenever it hits you. Good luck.